we are live. So welcome everyone. Here we are again with a new live lecture. This time we are very fortunate to have with us Professor Martin Kuuskmann. I assume you're in Denver right now?
Yes, I am.
Great. Yeah, we are here together with the Postman class, and we all are very curious about some things. We have some questions for you. Also, in the end of the lecture, we would like to include some of the questions from people watching this live on Facebook. So if you who are watching this on Facebook, if you have any questions to Martin, please feel free to write them here in the live chat, and we will pick them up in the end and include them. So having said all that, I think we can just jump straight to it. So nice to see you, Martin. How's life? How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing very well. I mean, considering all circumstances, things could be better, but things can always be better, and we just have to be ready for what's thrown in front of us and just go with it and not try to, excuse me, bitch and moan too much about it, because life can throw all kinds of hurdles in front of you, and you just have to be ready for it. And in America now we have, demonstrations going on, and Black Lives Matter, and I fully support it, of course. It gets into students' head. It disrupts a life in a way, not in a both good and bad way. And then the COVID and everything. I mean, just travels and everything. You can ask the same question from how is everyone? Everyone's gonna say, well, I'm fine. And then it comes to how are things? Well, everything is interrupted, but new things can be born from it, new ideas, new projects, and that's exactly what I'm starting to work on now over the summer. The projects that are already on, but also projects that will lead to the future, and completely the projects that I did not have in mind even 2 weeks ago have taken birth.
Wow.
So that's how I'm doing. But family is great. Sun is shining.
Well, at least today. But I saw yesterday you had some quite dramatic trees around your house, right?
We had in Denver, we had hurricane force wind. We don't get tornadoes here in Denver, but we had the hurricane or tornado, whatever, hurricane force wind, 160 kilometers an hour.
Oh.
I went outside to try to collect the chairs, but the chairs went flying past me. So I went back inside. But it lasted 10 minutes, and 100-year-old trees were down in our neighboring streets, like fir trees, big, strong Christmas trees.
Wow, that's crazy. But no one is hurt, I hope. You're fine.
No. Well, as far as I know, everyone I know is not hurt. Yeah, they're all fine.
Very happy to hear. So some of the things you already said actually is part of the things we would like to ask you also, because now with all this virus crap, it's impossible to basically go anywhere. And we know very well that you are often a soloist with orchestras from across the world, so you're used to traveling. And regarding that, first question is, how do you deal with such things as jet lags and different climates, especially when it comes to reeds? How can you just feel prepared that, okay, maybe tomorrow you play in Sydney, the day after in New York, and you have a reed box. This just needs to work for both places. How do you deal with this?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I know how to make reeds quite well. I'm not a master for reed maker, but because I always, as a student, I focused. I started in Estonia, and then I came to the States, and just by coincidence, I've studied with opera players. Rufus Oliviev was my big mentor. Vernon Reed, whom I started with, he wasn't an opera player, but I started privately with Rufus, San Francisco Opera. Then Stephen Maxim, Metropolitan Opera, then Frank Morelli, New York City Opera, and you know, Orpheus and everything else. Well, you know, they're quick reed makers. They Maxim just made reads. Oh, okay, well this will do, and Frank is pretty much the same way. The reeds don't look perfect. They're not the most beautiful looking reeds, but man, do they play well. And that's my mythology. Uh, that's my method. Let's put it this way. I try to make reads fast, and I try to make every read play. I don't have. I'm not one of these, you know, 10 reads and three will work. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just wondering because then, so if you would go to a completely new town, you have a concert in the evening, and you're coming from a different place, would you then make a new read for tonight?
No, no. I won't do that. But I have a box full of reeds, box full of chocolates, and there is something there that will work. And of course, I have Legers too.
Yeah.
And but um, and I'm fortunate to have such because I'm you know I don't have to make my own reeds anymore. I tell my students how to I coach them through. We have fantastic reed equipment at the University of Denver now, um, several machines, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't ever look for an ideal read. Ideal read for me is if and I can make that correction immediately. I just make it respond. I have, of course, we're in Denver, so we are 2,000 meters high. So pretty much anywhere I go, unless I go to play in Kenya, I will be in a good shape because it's approximately the same, but I won't go play in Kenya. So every read that I make here, nothing works anywhere else in the world. Nothing. So, so I basically just I often travel with my Andante Rondo profiler, and you know if I have I get there, you know, 2 3 days before concert, I actually just go on the profiler and fix up some old reads or blank, and in 3 days it's going to be fine. But basically the key is to have many different reeds, you know, different thickness and different width. And I, in general, like to play on a wider throat reed. And even though I'm based in America, my reeds are very much European, as is my approach still. Even though I studied with American players, but my ear has always been, you know, Dagins and Tuneman, Turkovic. You know, that's my world. Um, Gustavo. Um, but I didn't say hola Christian because we are the same age.
Of
He
course.
maybe I think he's actually maybe a year younger. Um, I think, but the key is to be versatile.
Sure.
It's my
Absolutely.
playing style. It's my reads match to my playing style. It just it goes every which way, and I try to be flexible with reads, so I can sound 1 week I can sound different from the next week because of the read,
Yeah.
slightly different.
And regarding reads, I didn't plan to ask this, but since we're talking about this now, I have also seen a video of you scraping a leger. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Hmm. It was a successful scrape.
Good. It would be an expensive mistake.
Yes, I'm lucky that I'm sponsored by with Reeds and with Leger. But regardless, I'm not. I wasn't being reckless. I'm never reckless, even if things come, you know, pro bono. Um, Use a plaque. Don't force down and don't force down on the reed on the Leger. This was in Tucson. I believe I did Theophanides Concerto, and I had plenty of good reeds, cane reeds to play on. But I just wanted to try if I can do Theophanides on a Leger, and it worked great. It just needed a little bit better response, and so I work with Reed Gig tools because you can travel with them anywhere. They don't take them away from you at the airports. They don't even inquire because they're just square. They're extremely sharp, and they stay sharp for years, and so that and because it's so rigid, the Reed Geek. Who knows Reed Geek here? The tool.
Yes, it's great. I know
Yeah,
it.
it's great. It's very rigid, so that's why you don't have to apply much pressure at all, and it just scrapes the reed easily by just by the weight of the tool itself. And yeah, it worked. I worked it just the same way as I work regular reed. You just have to know how much to take off because Leger reed is much thinner. But you know what? I mean, when I was in uh, my album where the one I recorded Theophanides and then Hummel and Mozart. Theophanides is there are two different horns. Theophanides is with a 222 CL, one of the first ones that came out, and Mozart, no, Hummel and Mozart are with a 222 CL, and Theophanides is with 222E actually before CL came out. Theophanides is with a regular cane, but Mozart and Hummel are recorded with Leger because I was on tour with Estonian, Tallinn Chamber Orchestra, and I knew that we were going to record a live recording of Mozart and Hummel for my album, and I literally did not have a good cane reed and it was late fall, and it's just things weren't I didn't like the cane in my box, and this Leger played well, and the outcome was that I recorded the whole Mozart and Hummel on the Leger, and that's what's on the album. The
Wow.
funny thing is that when I heard it on the radio, one day this bassoon concerto comes on, and my son and I were driving in the car, and I'm thinking, this is yeah, I mean, I like what he's doing musically, but who is this player? That the sound is like the style is kind of European. It's definitely not American, and but the sound is a little buzzier. Reminds me a little American sound. Who is this player? He had to go on Siri, ask who the player was, and it was me. I did not recognize my own sound.
Wow.
It wasn't the. I'm not saying it was a bad sound, but it was a buzzy, more buzzy sound, and that was the outcome of a Leger on. But it's I think that retranslated more to American style.
Yeah.
So that was answer to your question before. Yeah, I went to Leger. It wasn't exactly the sound. I sounded different. I didn't actually recognize my own self.
Yeah, sure.
I don't listen to the album. The album is there. It's not like I listen to it. Yeah.
Well, I guess you heard it when you played it, so.
I didn't really. I played it.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry for keeping you waiting. You have some questions as well, right?
Oh yes, because Martin, everyone knows your recordings and your technique is incredible. So my question is, how do you work on your technique, especially when it comes to fingers and all these incredible things you can do on your bassoon?
Thank you, Arek. Well, as with everything else, I keep things very simple. I like playing scales, and I like to never rest on my laurels. Um, I'm the last person who has a big head. I always I have a very small ego. I don't take myself too seriously, and I like to play, but mostly it's scales. Um, Previously, it's been scales in different articulation modes. I think I showed Kristian a few years ago. They're basically articulation modes that came from a flute book. Um, Moïse flute exercise book, Taffanel, Gobert, Moïse, these flute books, yeah. But Norman Hertzberg created his version. So this I got from Benjamin Kamens working, and then I added my own modes, basically going through every single different articulation mode. Then my double tonguing is based on literally flute technique, because when I learned double tonguing I was I had very fast single tongue, and Stephen Maxim told me, look, it's not gonna, your single tongue can be 152, but you still need to double tongue. And 152, 16th notes, of course, not quarters. Um, and uh, and so I set myself a goal. All right, now this is an answer directly to a question. I set myself a goal, going from zero to being able to double tongue. I gave myself 3 months. This was before Theophanides Concerto was conceived, and Chris actually heard me practicing at Yale up until 11 o'clock at night, midnight. I practiced about an hour to hour and a half every single day, just double tonguing. But I did exactly what flutes do. Uh, um, Basically based on French flute school, because they are the fastest double tonguers along with trumpet players. So I asked trumpet players as well, and I found the common link. And actually, it's very similar to what Ola Kristian is teaching.
Uh-huh.
And to me, it's got absolute. It's everything in the embouchure stays same. So the least amount of the least distraction possible. So you just keep blowing the same way all the time. High notes, low notes, double tonguing, whatever you do, it's same embouchure. Nothing changes, except when you go to the very high notes. Of course, it's slightly different embouchure. Yes, diggy diggy diggy. But it's basics. But now what I found, I really do like. And I used to move my fingers a little bit more, but because I was used to, just out of my ability to pull things together, I was able to move my fingers still with more of an action. My son is calling me. I'm gonna turn the phone around. One of my sons, Oscar. Yeah. And Ola's book, I like it because it's less interruption. So this is something actually I'm where I talked about that, yeah, I can do this and that, but I'm always thinking, I'm always up to relearning things, and not for my sake necessarily, for my students' sake, because maybe my students are not able to do with, even if I move my fingers higher, they're basically I run really fast, but my arms are moving more, for their sake, I'm reshaping my technique a bit, so so that they would have a better comprehension of how to play more smoothly, more quicker, and without much interruption. Of just everything is always based on air, but it's got but basically I had them order the drill books, and that's what it'll be based on. And this is I think Ola has written a really great book, especially the first one, and the second one just follows through, and it's actually helping me. I knew I can understand everything he's talking about, but I've overlooked it because I was able to do things anyway. There's nothing I wasn't able to do, but this just translates to my students better. Just because I'm able to do it doesn't mean my students can do it. So, but now when I base it on, Ole's written down method, and I have fantastic teachers, Frank and Maxim, and yeah, I can talk to my students exactly what I want, but now it's written down.
Exactly.
So it's very easy to follow. So if sometimes I flip over something, well, there it is. Just follow, and I actually make sure that I follow the order too. And I think actually it prolongs my playing life
Yeah.
because everything is much more easy. So thanks to Ola, I think I can up my game even more.
Thank
We
you,
all
Martin.
can.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Martin. Kristian has got another question for you.
Thank God.
Wow, of course, of course. Yeah, I want to take a little bit advantage of your situation also, because it's not so many people who they come from Europe. Yeah, you have been learning a lot while you were here, and now you are a professor in America. You also know a lot about how that is to be there. So since you have traditions in both schools, like Bassoon World in America, Bassoon World in Europe, we have different sounds and qualities and things we're thinking about. Since you know both directions, what would you say are benefits from both, and what can we learn from each other here?
A very good question. I think first of all, I think the bassoon world now is becoming more unified. Uh, Players are moving more in and out, and my hope is that in 10 years time that there really won't be this American school and European school, that players can really go from one orchestra to the other and audition equally in both sides of the world. But as far as schooling, uh, in general, I feel like American school has been more boxed in. It's more based on orchestral studies and less solo works. Um, and my schooling, ever since I started here, I always myself focused more on solo works, and I made sure that I know the excerpts, because if you can play the bassoon repertoire, the solo repertoire, uh, the orchestral excerpts become rather easy, because it's already built in. All these orchestral excerpts are built in into the solo material. But so basically, in America, the heavy focus is and remains on excerpts and dogs, excerpts and let's say there are two major recitals in the third year and fourth year, so they call junior and senior recital, and so that's what they really prepare for in their third and fourth year. Junior recital is shorter, senior recital is longer. Whereas I'd like my students to learn ideally, and a solo piece in 2 weeks, concerto in a month, but it's difficult to do because or even solo piece. I learned one solo piece every week, and I went not concerto but a piece or a movement every week. I went on like this, so I learned tremendous amount of repertoire, especially the Paris Conservatory, and that's not what my teachers told me to. This is what I personally sort of was looking out for. But it's because at the time I was going to go study at Paris Conservatory, or I people don't know that, but I because of my relationship, I turned down opportunity to go study with Turkovic in 1995 in Vienna.
Wow.
And I decided to go to, I had a choice between Juilliard or Manhattan School, so I went to Manhattan School because Frank just channeled me there. but I was very close to coming back to Europe, either Vienna or Paris in 1995. So I was already then, you know, from 93 to 94, I was studying one piece a week, and that was very un-American. So the way I brought myself up in America as a student, just individually, um, was very much against the grain. No, no, I didn't get any flack of it. I mean, I had a great relationship with my teachers, but in general, it's still more, you know, mock editions, a lot of orchestral excerpts. But you know, there's plenty solo repertoire too, but nowhere near as much as required in Europe.
Hmm. Okay,
My
that's
studio is
good.
different though. My studio works very much with a lot of solo works, but I give them mock auditions. I a couple times, 2 or 3 times a year. Um, we study you know, a few dozen excerpts every year, and go over in some cases whole works. But you know, there is always I always feel like, you know, have these ideas, but then we run out of time. Also, the students have in America, which is a hurdle, and this is why it differs from Europe. In a conservatorium, you don't have to study science, um, you know, Polish or English or things, or you know, Danish. Uh, you study music. You study music theory, music history, solfege, piano, and you study instrument. Then you have maybe orchestra, chamber music. That's it.
Wow, yeah,
Correct? Well,
yeah, more
here
or less.
you have what's called general education courses. Even in Juilliard or Manhattan School, you know, English, and you have to take art history and things like this. So if you're a conservatory student here in America, like San Francisco, Juilliard, Manhattan School, New England Conservatory, um, you have you have more time to practice. If you're in university, like Eastman School, Oberlin, uh, University of Denver, and the schools are conservatories, but they're part of the university. You
Ah,
have less time to practice than in conservatory. If you're in a university, like University of Michigan, and we have music department, you know, you have even less time because the requirements to study other classes are more. So that's a major difference.
wow.
That's a major difference because in Europe you can literally practice 5, 6 hours a day. Is that true?
Or maybe on master, yes. On bachelor, you also have quite a lot of subjects, but if on master, yeah, should it
Tell
could
me,
be.
what kind of subjects do you have? Uh, Enlighten me.
Well, I guess it's a lot of the same stuff. It is, you know, music history and how to write for a small choir, stuff like this, and uh, sometimes also physiology, like how your body reacts to playing your instrument, and yeah, I guess quite
True.
similar things.
True. But these are music classes. I'm talking
Yeah.
about classes that have nothing to do with music. There's
Well, there are some like psychology, philosophy, stuff like this,
okay.
but it's more on bachelor. It's just part of the
Okay.
wheel, let's say.
Oh, good. I mean, it's good to have more well-rounded education,
Yeah,
for sure, for sure. But I think in general, in America, the students don't quite get enough playing time. You know, if they can squeeze out 3 hours, or if they can squeeze out 4 hours, they've really got it. But it's hard to squeeze out 4 hours. But you need it in order to you know, especially as a student, you know, to keep afloat with the rest of the world, to keep yourself competitive.
exactly. And you're also competing against people who are practicing 5, 6 hours a day. So you better find the
Exactly.
time.
Exactly. I don't think it's not necessary to practice more than 5 hours a day necessarily, because I think you get plenty of done. You know, you can get plenty done in 1 hour,
Yeah,
but if you keep going with 1 hour, that's not enough. But between 3 and 5 hours, that's optimal.
exactly. I think Arik, you have something more, right?
Yes, Martin, you've mentioned that you've done tremendous amount of repertoire when you were studying, lots of pieces, one after another, in short periods of time. Are there any pieces, any repertoire for the bassoon that you would recommend that is not really played enough these days?
Yes, yes. There is a fantastic piece by Ida Gotkovsky. First of all, female composers are not so much done. Um, and Ida Gotkovsky, the piece is written for bassoon and orchestra, uh, uh, concert variations. It's written for Paris Conservatory. It's one of the concours pieces. Um, I've done it. I did it in 19. Stephen Maxim actually told me to play. Told me to play, and I bought the music at the time. It was expensive, and I think it's still about $60. There's a great version for bassoon and piano. It's 5 variations, and I played it around the world in recitals for several years, and I actually want to bring it back. It's quite technical, but not overwhelming. But it involves really everything from kind of a Jolivet kind of. I put it in the same category with Jolivet. Um,
Wow.
yeah, maybe slightly easier, but it's challenging. Definitely high. It's got the high notes. It really just goes between, then above C stratosphere, melodically, beautifully. You can't squeak there. Um, and Ida Gotkovsky. It's variations concertantes. That's yeah, and it's terrific. It's one of these pieces that I'd like my students to play, in their, if they choice between Jolivet and something, well, they can do this. There is no recording of it, as far as I know, for bassoon and orchestra. However, Peter Kolke, that was a few years after I started playing it. He won the Concert Artists Guild competition with that very piece. That kind of set him off, onto his great career.
That's fantastic. I never even heard about the composer.
Yeah, Ida Gotkovsky,
Great.
very good piece. She's written a lot for saxophone.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
thanks
It's got
for
check it
informing.
out. Check, and then I think in America people don't play Bernaud hallucinations and Alain Bernaud hallucinations. Who knows that?
Not many.
Yeah, that's a great piece.
I've heard
Great,
it.
great piece. Bernaud, Bernaud, as an Estonian would pronounce it. Yeah,
And Polish.
and Polish. Yeah,
No, but that's the amazing thing, I think. That's also why I like to dig into unknown repertoire, because I believe many of the most beautiful pieces ever written for bassoon is not even found yet, I think. And
yeah.
when you say a piece like that, I'm just so curious, like, how does this sound? Why is it not recorded? Why aren't people doing this?
Well, Bernaud has been recorded, and Alain Bernaud is one of the main pieces they do in Paris Conservatory, but it's gotten stuck in Paris. It should be done everywhere else too.
Of course.
And of course, in Paris they know Ida Gotkovsky, but it's one of these pieces that, I mean, it's riveting piece. I played it in a recital in 2002 in New York Times. New York Times loved that piece. Yeah,
And that would be a great addition to the repertoire, also especially a female composer. How many female composers do we have for bassoon music that we can just name off the bat?
Yeah,
Not
Ellen
too
Kuuskmann.
much.
someone who wrote for me. Yeah, yeah.
So
But
that's fantastic.
mhm.
Great. Okay, I got some more questions here. I still want to take a little bit more advantage of your situation in America, Europe here. you were talking about now teaching and schooling and sound and stuff like this, but what would you say are the differences or better than the other, if you want to say, when it comes to how musicians are treated, gig markets, salaries, and this stuff?
Hmm. Well, apart from the sound, the sounds, of course, sound is very different. American sound and European sound.
Yeah,
American sound is lighter, brighter, slightly buzzier.
yeah.
Uh, Dark European sound. That's I moved towards that, but great response. Uh, Gigs. Um, well, depends where you are. I was very lucky to get started in New York City, and I worked my way up 8 years to being on top of the totem pole. Great gigs, and of course, then 9/11 hit, and everything took a plunge. That was already what 20 years ago. It seems like yesterday, but American freelance scene has never really recovered.
Okay.
It's still good, but 9/11 everything changed in New York after that
Yeah.
because so many shows suddenly closed. Then I was playing a Miss Saigon, and I was the first call there. That there was things closed, and very often when things close, they don't open up these doors anymore. Some orchestras closed, organizations went out, donors dropped out. The scene is good if you work with um, you know let's say in New York, for example, the Knights, uh, Ice, Orpheus, uh, of course, Metropolitan Opera, New York City Opera, but so many orchestras that used to have regular, like St. Luke's Orchestra and Brooklyn Philharmonic, American Symphony Orchestra, they used to have regular monthly concerts in Carnegie Hall. They
Yeah.
still haven't recovered. They do
Wow.
maybe Brooklyn Philharmonic is no longer. It was one of Morelli's orchestras, and and um, and it was a big orchestra, and so if New York hasn't quite been the same, it's nowhere near. It's much harder, say, in Atlanta or even in San Francisco. Yeah, people do freelance, but I moved away, and they do okay, but I think it's quite tough.
But can you survive from freelancing there just alone?
In New York City, you can,
Okay. Wow.
but and definitely could at the time. I mean, in New York City when I was there, the freelancers were earning more than people earn in Berlin Philharmonic. But Berlin Phil is they're paid. All German orchestras, the A orchestras are paid the same. You can't compare yourself, so you make more. But I mean, things you can do as a Berlin Philharmoniker is it's a different story. Everywhere you go, you can do things. You can do solo concerts, recitals, etc., etc. Money wise, in New York, yeah, people were making six figures, multiple six figures a year. Hundreds, top freelancers were a few
Yeah.
$100,000 a year. Uh, but they were
Pretty
working.
good.
They were working a lot, some teaching too, but it's not that like that anymore. It's much harder to, I think there are probably very few players who make, in New York, who freelancers make over $100,000 now if they don't teach. Teaching is what keeps them afloat. And many the freelancers teach in major schools. Yeah. And
Yeah, but
now,
actually, I think that's really good actually, because only because you have an orchestra job doesn't mean that you automatically know how to teach.
yes.
And you,
Yeah.
you see so many great players these days, and you just think, wow, I want to play like this guy. So you go there, and the person just have no clue how to teach. and you play something and he says, oh, no, don't do that, play like this. Perfect. How do I do it? I don't know. You just do it.
Well, there are some teachers who are I was lucky. My mom is a piano teacher, and a really good one. So I was always around her teaching. I saw it, and it's in some people's genes, whether you're and there are some players who are not that great. They're not that strong of a player, but they're a great teacher. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. And yeah, but basically the freelance scene in America, you can make good money per service still, but it's how many gigs you have. Like in New York, I had days where I had 3 services, morning, day, and night, and it went but these are so hard to come by now. And in San Francisco, for example, unless you freelance with a major symphony orchestra, it's it's uh it's difficult.
Sure.
For sure difficult.
Wow. No, but also in the question that I was asking, yeah, gig markets and everything, very interesting. But also, yeah, sound-wise, we all know that, yeah, it is very different. And you told a little bit already about what the differences are. But what would you say is the benefit with an American sound in comparison to European and vice versa? Because you do a little bit of both, yeah, yourself.
Yes. When I recorded, my last gigs were with I recorded lots of film music in Seattle, and these were major film scores, and they didn't care. They kind of liked when I showed up with my sound, and second bassoon could be playing with more definitely American sound, more American sound, put it this way. And I didn't have to go and try to play the American way there, because the other players, the wind section, they liked what I was doing. However, in New York, I definitely did not try to push, what I liked. There was a set, you had to show up and play well. You couldn't mess up. You had to be on time, before time, and you had to be there before. And then when you showed up, you just had to know everything. You had to be on the ball all the time.
Yeah.
It was a tough market, because if you weren't, there was, Joe next door was going to step in, or Mary next door. And so it's you kind of had to play your own game, but you also had to fit in. It's not good to be, this, just stick out and yeah, I'm great. No, it interrupts too much. So when you join an orchestra, especially an American orchestra, in a gig market, and you're a great player, you go there and try not to shuffle, just blend in. So that's what I was doing in New York. I was always giving my best, but I definitely tried to not stick out with my sound too much. I didn't want to. I wanted to be heard musically what I can do. Yes, technically what I can do, but I didn't want to show up with a completely different sound, because or read that there are 3 different players. Now, when I came to, or 2 different players, when I came to in Europe, for example, or when I played with the Berlin Philharmonic chamber groups, I definitely played with completely different setup.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Great.
And it was very easy change, because actually I practice on the European setup.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I don't have an American setup anymore.
Well, I guess you're in a position where you can have the sound you want.
Well, I don't freelance anymore. I haven't freelanced really. I didn't even consider that those gigs in Seattle, you know, several years of doing film music gigs. It was a great orchestra, basically Seattle Symphony and Northwest Ballet, Seattle Ballet Orchestra put together. And I was out of the New York scene. When I left New York, I basically ended my orchestra freelancing. I do miss orchestra very much because I loved playing with orchestra. It adds a lot to uh, one's arsenal as a
Yeah.
player. So
And
just because I'm a solo artist, I have a lot of orchestral experience and I still treasure it greatly. And if I had a chance to play in orchestra, I'd jump at it. I mean, as a guest, yeah.
no, and also I guess because orchestras, you're sort of forced to just stay in shape all the time because you go to work all the time. But if you are a freelancer or even a soloist, it's more maybe projects and you are more on your own machine. You just need to keep yourself going more, don't you think? Or
Yeah, yes and no. Because I don't like to, I'm not one of these people who trains for marathon and then when there is 2 months off that I take off, I always work. I like to be in shape all the time. It's just that am I more in shape in this period than next period? Yes, I might be because I have more concerts, but I'm always in shape. I'm
yeah,
never out. There's yeah, in the summer maybe I do take a month off, or I don't play at all. It's actually really good just to take and regenerate or relearn things.
sounds healthy.
Yeah, it's healthy, and but I like to be in shape all the time because otherwise it just takes time. I hate in a way wasting time to get back in shape.
Of course,
So,
yes.
so I've been I mean I'm doing I have the Coltrane exercises that I play. I'm not a jazz bassoonist, but I can stand on my own when asked or when necessary. And I'm no Michael Rabinowitz or Paul Hansen. Not
Yeah,
even close.
Michael has been here already
But
showing quite some cool tricks. Yeah,
every musician should be able to improvise and just but in order to do that you need to be in shape. Your fingers need to move, or at least your ideas need to move. And if you too focused on the embouchure, keeping it together, uh, it's it's uh, it's not healthy.
absolutely. And also, yeah, if you know how to improvise, I mean, you're thinking so much, chords and stuff like this, which you normally don't do in classical music. You just see sheet music, this is what you play. But it really
Yeah.
opens up so much of your ears and mind, no?
Yeah. Well, but with improvising, I just think of tonalities, and and if I play a wrong note, man, I love that wrong note. I just for a long time
Exactly.
until it's right. Yeah.
So actually, do you recommend your students also to improvise or something? Or do you teach some
I
jazz basics?
no, I haven't. I haven't. No, I haven't taught them. There's so much before that, but I teach modern music ensemble because my responsibilities at University of Denver is my bassoon class and chamber music. I coordinate the chamber music, and one part of chamber music is a modern music ensemble. And very often there are aspects of improvisation in modern music. Say it's a new piece being written, or actually evoke ideas in a composer. If they write a new piece, give them space to improvise, then absolutely. But often I tell my students, look, if you have nothing else to do, let's say you have 15 minutes, uh, put anything on, put your favorite tune on, put your, it might be a pop tune, or it can be, R&B, or it can be, Mozart, and start improvising to it. Don't,
Yeah.
the fewer notes, the better. Don't play a lot of notes. Just pick 3 or 4, 2, 3 notes, and do improvisation with these 2, 3 notes. See how much you can come up with, because you can come up with a lot with just 3 notes.
Absolutely. Not
People,
going for
I used to do that. I mean, come on, just cut it out. It's nonsense.
really
Until
good stuff.
you know.
I like to hear that. All right, you have something, I think. Yeah.
Martin, you mentioned that you played your recordings on a couple of bassoons. So speaking of your instrument, what determined the choice of your instrument? That's one part of the question. And we would also like to hear a history of your ownership, what you used to play in the past, and why this, what you're playing, why is this now?
Thank you. Another great question. So I used to I started my bassoon playing after I played clarinet and piano in 1986 when I was 2 years old. I started bassoon. I started earlier than Kristian. I was
At 2 years old?
very big 2-year-old. No, I'm kidding. I was stodgy 2-year-old. Uh, um, I started with Munich in high school, my first year of high school, and it was an East German instrument, Munich. The better ones played sonoras, and I'm sure they're still around in Poland too. The sonora bassoon. Yeah, yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah. And but hey, the bassoon didn't play very well, but I had to play it well. I had no choice.
Of
So
course.
anything after that was better than you know. So I think that's what kind of shaped me for years to come. That you know, I never have an ideal reed. I always make sure that reed, you know, just speak and play, and as long as there is response, I can do everything else. Um, After that, I moved to you know the States. I came to America without an instrument, but the school had an old 5000 series Heckel, San Jose State University. That's where I went to. My host family, the Bashirs, they sponsored me to go to this school, and then when I went to Yale in 1992, um, I went to Yale without an instrument. And I I arrived at school. Here's everybody with their own instruments. This Estonian dude with a Banana Republic shirt. A Polish guy actually asked me, "Are you from Banana Republic?" I said, "No, I'm from Estonia." Uh, and it was a Polish violinist. I still don't know if he was serious or not. He asked without, but he was kind of sarcastic. But hey, Polish, you can't be sarcastic. I just didn't get it. I'm from Estonia.
It's part of their charm, I think.
It's part of the charm. Duh. But I played a fox, a wind ensemble fox that belonged to Estonia, belonged to Yale wind band for a few months until Stephen Maxim had enough, and he was almost about to lend or give me his 6000 series Heckel that is now being played actually in San Francisco Symphony in a section. But at the same time, there was a call. I heard that there's a old Heckel, 4000 series Heckel being sold. That's an old Heckel. It was restored by Jim Lasley. I didn't know anything. What is a good instrument? What is not? So I picked up the horn and from who was selling it, and it was masterful. It was beautifully done. It looked like a new bassoon, just tiny with one hole, with just a D hole, D high D key, and said, if you don't buy it, I will buy it.
Sure. It looks like we have a little difficulty here with your connection, Martin. It's a little frozen, or actually not a little bit, quite a lot. Unless he got a stroke, I'm not sure. Hopefully not. Hopefully he comes back on soon. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, until he's getting that back, I find it really interesting to hear, especially also, all the different bassoons he had, and where that ended up. He has been trying tons of different instruments, and where do you get how do you actually pick something? Because in the past, he said also that he didn't really have a choice. It was more just like, yeah, you're offered to play on that, you're offered to play on this. But when he had a choice, then he ended up on what he did. I see he's back. Great. I don't need to small talk anymore. Awesome.
Here.
Yay. Welcome back.
Well, I sorry about it. I think my kids went on different computers, and I think if 4 computers are being used, lines can get tied down a bit.
Sure. No worries. Good you're back.
Yeah. Nice to see everybody. So should we introduce everyone? Who is everyone? No.
I was just small talking until you were back. So good you're back.
So basically, I played that Heckel very successfully until 2010. And this is the Heckel that I recorded the non-stop CD. I recorded Archipelago with it's a German company that released it, Archipelago with bassoon and accordion. You probably don't. Who has heard the CD?
I have it, I think, at home in Stavanger.
It's a world music CD, kind of wacky. Kristian was a producer of it, and it's I still like the CD. It's very quirky, very close mic'd, kind of noisy key work. And then the Tibetan Monk CD, I did that with that bassoon.
But that's the 4,000 Heckel you're talking about now, or?
Yes, the Path of Mantra, and Nonstop was also recorded with that. Berio, by the way, was single take. That's why I called it Nonstop, because I had all the time, but I thought, well, you paint a painting, why start fixing it? It is what it is. And it was tremendously flexible bassoon, but what I didn't like about it was the brightness of the sound, and there was nothing I could do with the reed to make the sound darker. So I had to, and also intonation was really 444. It was, so this instrument now, I sold it to my former student who is in Austria now, in Linz, Matthias Kronsteiner, and it really belongs there, and it's still a beautiful instrument. So then, why did I sell it? That was one of the reasons, because I was looking for different sound, but I really didn't want to. I could have bought a new Heckel. By the way, this Heckel was bought with the help of a couple of families. I didn't have at the time money to buy even a used Heckel. It was still expensive. Now, 18 years later, I was trying out Foxes. I didn't get to Buchners, but I wanted to work with a company that I could work with myself and, develop the bassoon. And if I have ideas, then I could tell them, and maybe we can, work together and just develop the bassoon. Basically, let's see what else we can do other than the same old. Then I knew that Heckel wasn't going to do that, and I also didn't want to play Heckel, not because I don't admire the instrument, but because then every young player will think that, if every established player plays a Heckel, well, that's what I have to play too. It's not at all the case. And I thought of Yamaha, and I tried some, I knew Putner already, of course, but then I happened to be in one of the master classes I was giving in the University of Fredonia State University in New York State, and Justin Miller was there with Moosman bassoons, and he just sort of told me, just I was playing a Fox 610 at the time, try it. That take it home. It was a 222E. Take it home and see what you think. If you want to work with us, great. But they were not interested in being, you play two instruments and one of them is Moosman.
Sure.
So if you really like it, give us a call. And I just really liked it. So but what really led to it was me listening to same concerto. It was actually a piece by Tõnu Kõrvits, my childhood friend, who has written several great bassoon concerto type pieces for me, and one recording with the Fox and one recording with Moosman. And while the Fox felt really good, I mean, it really felt everything was smooth and everything worked. But just the timbre was so different on the Moosman. It was like somebody let something out of a can, whoa, and Fox was much more subdued. And so I went more for the operatic quality instrument. That's not to say that Fox is a perfectly fine instrument, but just my preference was something that had more resonance and flexibility. And so now I've been. I also very much like Putner, but I still feel for me there's more flexibility in Moosman, and so that we developed I thought of the two. I started playing 222E, and I thought, well, what would it sound like if you did it with a heavy schlack on it? And they said, well, we already have a different model like it. Okay, well, how about making a really thick wall bassoon, but didn't have that with heavy schlack? Well, that ended up being the 222CL.
Yeah.
And now the one that one model was cut out in between, and basically the 222E that I used to play, and thought of what if you throw a thick shellac on it? It is now what Stefano Conuti plays, because he happened to have tried the 222E, said, well, why don't we throw a thick shellac on it? And it was the right time. And that is also a fantastic instrument, that 222 CS. Yeah.
Absolutely.
SC, yeah, Stefano Conuti. But I've been playing on CL for 3 years now, and I'm more than satisfied. And I like the long bell version that I have, the first one that Bernd made. I convinced him to invest in the long bell technology, and I think it's done very well for the company.
Yeah, you mean the gentleman cut, right?
Yeah, no.
No.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, but it's the same length in gentleman cut, but there's no cut.
Yeah, exactly. You have only 4 pieces, not 5.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, Heckel has been making it for years.
Yeah.
But I think there is my idol Tuleman, he says that the extra cut, it adds some something to the sound, or some more core to the sound. But I don't know, I beg to differ, because to me it's, if there's something else here, it doesn't. I think just the long bell might give more resonance. I could be wrong. I mean, Andrea Celacchi plays exactly the same instrument, but with the gentleman cut, and he doesn't lack any resonance. So that's a personal thing. But
I
my
also
whole
think it's very personal, but also for me, it makes total sense that the more times you cut the instrument up, the more, how do you say, the more disturbance there is for the air, I guess.
and you know what? No instrument has been. I mean, my Moosmans are by far, and this is. I honestly can put my foot down and say that no other instrument can even compare, can even come close with the high register. A very
Well,
solid high, a very
even old and new Heckles can do it too.
the new Heckles, yes,
Yeah,
but not all of them.
depends on the player.
Yes, but every Moosman plays really well. Somehow he's managed plays really well in the high register.
True,
It always comes to a player.
of course.
You know, the instrument is not going to run 100 meters for you, but uh, that one hold one the simple old Heckle, it played amazing high notes. It had the least keys,
Yeah,
and it would play. It was just, you know, it was like a sopranino. But you know, you too, Kristian, and me, you know, we have a lot of, you know, I have four holes. I think you may have 5 or 7, you know, the high key holes.
only four so
Yeah,
far.
yeah. See, I have the 4, you know, that your father you can see that F sharp.
Yeah,
Uh, but I have different fingering system. I have
yeah,
different
I
key
saw.
and it's only the keys are there not to get the notes, not to play these notes. It's to play around these notes because, you know, there are fingerings to play high F and high F sharp. Just fingerings that play even better than the keys themselves, or the pressing the keys. But they're just too clumsy to play fast.
Yeah,
So these keys are all for just acrobatics.
absolutely. And for trilling and for chromatics and all of this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just playing intervals and yeah, easier.
Yeah. Okay, we have, I think, 2 more questions here, if you got time.
I got time. I've got
Okay.
enough water. Got time.
Perfect. Okay, there is one here. So you have been playing a lot of pieces, also pieces that many of us have not even heard about because you commission pieces from composers. And I have heard some of the pieces myself when you also were in Germany, you were a soloist there. A lot of really great pieces. And I just wonder, how do you know who to contact? How do you choose your composer?
I choose my composer um, just generally whose music I like.
Yeah,
And if I like their music and I like them as a person, I and there is and I feel that there is an opportunity there, then I approach them. And and if you have a successful track record, which I'm humbled and lucky to have had, um, once you ask, if you ask such a composer, it has to be also a composer who can be presented. It's easy to ask a composer who is relatively well known, uh, or who's good but relatively unknown,
yeah,
a piece. But and it can be a terrific piece, but it's much harder to promote because if the presenters and orchestras don't know the composer, it's much harder for to get through to them. As a bassoon soloist, can you play a piece by this or that they've never heard?
I think it's very pity
Bassoon
that they
soloist,
are
I mean,
critical
I have
about
hard,
that.
yeah, I have hard enough time, you know, competing with the violinists. I mean, if there are more bassoon soloists, the better for us, because the more of us are, you know, we just need more people to hear bassoons as solos. It's we would never be competitive with another bassoonist. It's just the more of us are there, the easier it is for us, you know. But so like the next one, some of them, you know, have Paul Ragnar Palsson, great Icelandic composer. He's writing a next concerto that I'm recording next year, with Ola Rielts conducting, and you know the double concerto was conceived by the flutist of the Iceland Symphony Orchestra, Haffi, Olafsdottir, and we played the double concerto in Iceland, and it came through her. But a lot of it is just personal connections, or like Jennifer Higdon and I have been talking about a concerto since 2003.
Wow, yeah.
And Jennifer is a huge composer, is around the world, but especially in America. And her concerto is for 2024. But and I thought of a double concerto. I talked to several players in Europe, but it's harder to come up with a double concerto for two bassoons because look, I want to be one of the soloists naturally.
Of course.
I mean, I like to be good humanitarian too, that I commission a concerto and then everybody else plays it. No, I want to play it because it's I get the pleasure of playing it.
Of course. And also, I guess if the piece actually really catches on, then it's quite special to then know that you were the first one.
Yes, and it's written with me in mind, with
Exactly.
not necessarily what I can do, because I really don't know what I can do tomorrow.
Sure, but actually that's part of a question too. When you work with a composer, I think a lot of the problem why many people don't do it is because we look on composers back in the day like Bach and Beethoven, and you think it's like almost God in person. I don't dare to contact a composer, but that you don't give a shit about that and you just go for it. But then now, since the composers are alive, they're still here. Do you work closely with them? Do you work together on this, or do you just get like, here's your part, go and play?
Sometimes, like with Paul Ragnar Balson, we did work together on some things. He'd send me some things, and I'd work around them. Yeah, that's good. Let's work more here. But very often, I tell, like with Jennifer Higdon, that concerto is going to be just the bassoon concerto now, and it's going to be commission of so far 7 orchestras, but it might be 10 to 15 for 2024, and it's just a bassoon concerto. And I'm telling her just to write anything that comes to mind. And then they can start sending fragments, and then I play them. And I can see if it's visually possible, if I can basically just kind of hum it through my head, then it's possible. And usually when someone visualizes the melody in their head, a composer, if they can just you kind of hum through it's always possible.
Sure.
It's always possible.
No, makes sense. Great answer. I think now we will jump to there's a question here from the live chat. There's a guy asking if you know about, I don't know how to pronounce this name, Raimo Kangru Bassoon Concerto. You know this piece? Yeah.
Yes, I'm recording it next year.
Perfect.
Because
the person who's writing it says it's written for my teacher, and as far as I know, only me and my teacher have played it. It would suit you perfectly.
Thank you. It must be Arni Sarnichan's student.
It's written by a guy called Edgars. I guess Lithuanian.
Edgars?
It's Estonian, yeah.
Well, Raimo Gangro is Estonian. My mother taught piano to his daughter.
Aha. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm learning new things here now. Estonian mafia popping up.
Well, there's a Järvi mafia, and I'm talking about a great mafia to work with. I mean, there's really no mafia, of course. It's what a blast to have been, with Kristian. I've done so many with Neme. Oh my God, the concerts we've done together, and with Paavo. Yeah, both in the Estonian Festival Orchestra and as a soloist with him a couple times. But Raimo Gangro is one of these. It's a sad story because he died too young. There is Raimo Gangro and Leppo Sumera who died too young. They were in the late 40s, 50. Because during Soviet times, Poles can sympathize. It was hard life, and lots of people, drinking, and lots of talents went really early. I mean, 50 is a young man,
Yeah.
and heart diseases and such. So Raimo Kangro is one of them, and yes, the concerto has not been played. I heard it once when I was studying bassoon and in Estonia, and now I'm the Erkki Sven Tür concerto. And Eino Tamberg, who just turned 90. Eino Tamberg died 10 years ago, and I played his concerto on a tour with Estonian National Symphony with Neeme Järvi the same year, a few months before he died.
Wow.
So he died on Christmas, and then I get this text message from Neeme Järvi. It's a good thing we got it done when he was still alive. He died on Christmas Eve at the gates of a cemetery. Beautiful sunny day. He was the
Wow.
sunniest of personalities. He was on the way to a cemetery. He died at the gates of cemetery. Just beautiful.
Wow.
It's very sad, but beautiful. 80 years old. His concerto is fantastic. Tamberg, Tür, and then I'm adding Kangro because it is not played very much. It's not played at all. I have to see. That's what you're doing, Kristian. You're awakening old concertos from hundreds of years ago,
Yeah.
and or now. But I'm yeah. This is one of these Estonian composers who really needs to be played, and it's a great concerto. And I believe it was written for Andris Arnitsans,
You're probably right.
a great Latvian player who played in I believe in Moscow for many years. He's got beautiful Vivaldi recordings, and I mean he's Andris Arnitsans. Check him out. He's still teaching. He's in Riga. He's back in Latvia now, and is my idol when I was growing up in Estonia. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's really interesting. I didn't know about the piece at all, but I have actually one Estonian little gem that I really like to play, and it's only 2 pages long. It's for bassoon and piano, and it's called Lead Without Words by Artur Lemba. You know him?
Of course.
You know the
Yeah.
piece?
Song laul, sõnadeta laul.
Yes.
Sõnadeta laul. I probably I'm sure I do, but I don't have it. And Neeme Järvi does a lot of Lemba. Artur Lemba is Artur Lemba he went to the St. Leningrad Conservatory at the time, or no, St. Petersburg Conservatory, because Leningrad came after Lenin, and so he's schooled in the great Russian masters style, but about beautiful music, Artur Lemba.
So much good stuff. His symphonies, and even just the fact that he wrote anything for bassoon. I was so happy when I discovered it, and I play it quite often. And I really want to publish it.
Oh, please, yes, do
I
that.
would love to, but it still has copyrights, so I need to wait 10 more years.
Can you? I have to get. I'm gonna get I have to get my hands on the PDF somehow.
I can try to help you out.
Yeah, try.
Sure.
Thank you.
But okay, fantastic to see you, Martin. I think we're getting to an end of the live stream. It was really great to have you here, to hear you talk, to hear your ideas, and to also get participation from the online community here. So I just want to say thank you so much. It has been a real pleasure.
It's been my pleasure, and great to meet you all. I'm coming to Poland so far still, to Gdansk in November, and maybe we can make something happen then. And I hope to meet all of you on the screen. Arek, Mateusz, Carolina, of course, Benjamin, on just in person.
That would be great. November is perfect timing. That's my birthday month.
There we go.
So a good reason to have a party.
Always good reason.
Perfect. So I will end the live stream now. Thank you so much to everyone on Facebook for watching. Again, thank you, Martin, for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, people.
Cheers.